Hello snowboarders of the internet, I'm your host TC and this is Top 5s, the only weekly top 5 show in snowboarding that you come to because you know we're not going to try to sell you something you don't need. On today's episode, we're going to be discussing the top 5 intermediate snowboards for the 24-25 season. Number 5, the Arbor Verado. This board used to be called the Arbor Coda Rocker, but they changed the name this year to confuse less people, and I'm 100% down with it. So this board is going to be a full reverse camber board with grip tech right underneath your bindings pretty much, or those inserts. So what that's going to do is that's going to grip into the snow. So even though it is going to be super easy to swivel around, you're still going to have good edge hold to it where it's not just like you're on one of those saucers just spinning or anything like that. This board also is going to have crazy good float when you get into that powder or that super slushy snow, those conditions, that sort of thing, where it's going to want to float, it's going to want to stay up just because of that shaping. That nose always wants to stay up. This thing's also going to be awesome for when you do go into the park or just want to butter around, where you can really press on that tail or that nose and really just have a good time. It's not going to be the most precise board out there, but it's going to be a nice mixture of precision and playfulness. Number 4, the GNU Hyper. This board is awesome for that intermediate rider because it is a great combination of precision, but it's going to have a little bit of playfulness to it where if you try to overpower this thing, it's not going to be for you. So it's that perfect intermediate board for somebody that's just learning how to really hold that edge without pushing all of that force into it. This board's really easy to turn, really easy to get up in the snow and keep it floating. It's just a really fun board to ride in general, where you don't have to be on your A game all the time. You go out there, you have a few drinks with your friends, and you just need to make it down from the chalet. You can easily do that on this board. But it's going to be able to progress with you when you do get to that advanced zone. You're going to be able to still take it off of jumps, off of side hits, all of that stuff without having to worry that this thing's just going to fold on you or not be enough board. Number 3, the K2 Instrument. It's pretty much my first Freeride board, that medium volume shifted board where you can go down a few centimeters on it, but really what this board is made for is just going in that one direction. You've found your niche in snowboarding, you know you just want to pretty much ride that whole mountain, carve it out, get in the trees, do your little wiggle moves in there, that sort of thing. That's what this board's going to do. It's going to make it easier for you to progress in those aspects of riding without having something that's super cumbersome, super hard to turn. This board's just going to be nice and easy to turn, still going to have that great float, but it's going to be that directional so you can really wiggle it around, especially in those tighter trees. While I have it here, you might as well like, subscribe, click that bell, and turn on those notifications so you don't miss any of our scheduled programming we have coming out. Number 2, the Ravine. This board is awesome for an intermediate and even getting up to that advanced rider, where this thing is going to have camber in between your feet with rocker on the nose and the tail. It's going to be slightly less on the tail than on the nose just because it is a directional board. So this thing is really awesome though, where it does turn really well. You can stand on that back tail and really use that thing to power, where you don't have to worry if it's gonna fold on you or anything like that. It does load up extremely well, so if you didn't want to keep it pigeonholed in that straight free ride zone, you can take it off of side hits, take it off that medium jump line, that sort of thing, and it's still gonna be super fun. Honorable mentions. Remember, these are all great options, they just weren't the best options in our eyes. The first honorable mention is going to be the Nitro SMP. This is a great directional board. It's going to have camber right underneath your feet there with rocker on the nose and the tail, where this thing just wants to turn. It wants to be that standard free ride board where it's going to have power pods right underneath those inserts, so it's going to give you a little bit more grip there, so when you are on those icy, those super steep conditions, really challenging your ability levels, this board's going to hold up for you. The next honorable mention is going to be the Jones Frontier. Now this board is a directional twin. That shape might look familiar to you, where it is the same shape as the Solution and the Flagship, but they just tweaked it a little bit to make it more user friendly. This board is going to have camber in between your feet with rocker on the nose and the tail, so what that's going to do, going to make it a little bit more catch free and definitely help that thing float, because you know you're going to want to get into some powder with it. And the last honorable mention is the Salomon Super 8. This board is awesome whether you just want to carve, you want to go hit side hits, anything like that, you want to compete in your first bank slalom, this would be a great board for you. It's not super rigid, it is going to be mostly camber and then have more rocker on the nose than it does on the tail, but overall still a nice user-friendly board that you can still take runs off and not really have to worry about getting bucked around or anything like that. But remember, these are all great options for honorable mentions, they just weren't able to crack our top 5 this year. If you're looking for another way to get involved in the Angry Snowboarder community, head on over to Angry Snowboarder VIP. Sure, I could explain it here, but we have a great video over there getting to it really in depth. And the number 1 intermediate snowboard for 24-25 season is the Ride Moderator. This board is awesome. It is new in the line this year. It pretty much took a mixture of the Ride Deepfake and the shadow band that I have over my left shoulder here, and they mixed it together. So it's gonna have that stiffness of a shadow band, not be too crazy stiff. It's not gonna have that metal in the sidewalls like the Deepfake does. It's just gonna be that nice, happy medium mixture. If you're built like I am, where you're not super big or anything like that, it's a great option for you. This board is gonna have camber underneath your feet all the way through the tail, and it's gonna have a little rocker on the nose. What that's gonna do is it's gonna give you all that precision that you're looking for without being overbearing, because that rocker is gonna help that board get off edge and get over to the other side. It's also gonna help with float, so when you're hitting side hits, that side country, trying to get all that fresh powder, it's gonna float really well for you. And it's gonna have a nice little pop to it as well because of that camber with extra landing gear, just because you don't have any rocker in the tail. So if you land a little back seat, it's gonna wanna bring you right back to that original state there, where you don't always have to land bolts on it. But the Ride Moderator is gonna be our number 1 pick for the 24-25 intermediate boards. Super awesome boards. I highly suggest you pick one up if you haven't already. As always, guys, I've been your host, TC, and this has been our top 5 intermediate boards for the 2025 season. Do you agree with the list? Do you disagree with the list? Leave a comment down below. I do want to know what you guys have to think. If nothing on this list really tripped your trigger, I would highly recommend you check out one of our other top 5 lists, because I guarantee there's a board out there for you.